you better say that. The best talk show, you better say that. The guests on the show, you better say that. Give knowledge and hope, you better say that. Outsider, that's the host, you better say that. Spread love and faith, you better say that. God steer away the hate, you better say that. We all gonna be great, you better say that. Work out passion, not pay, you better say that. Oh yeah, you better say that, say that. Oh yeah, you better say that. Oh yeah, you better say that. The best talk show, you better say that. The guests on the show.
Hello and welcome to the You Better Say That talk show. I'm your host, Alzada Florence, and I am so glad that you took the time to join us today. I have very special guests today. I have guests all the way from West Point, Georgia, and Auburn, Alabama. Today we're going to be talking about grief. Grief is something that affects all of us in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. Some can handle it and some cannot. But we have guests today that can tell us how to deal with grief when grief hits us. So I want to welcome Pastor and Lady Cheryl Stiggers all the way from West Point, Georgia. Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot that y'all took the time. I know this was a hard task. You know, we tried to work it out, and you guys made it happen, and I'm so grateful that you're here.
Yeah, because you know my wife.
Yeah.
And y'all been long time friends.
Yes, and favor ain't fair.
Yeah.
It surely is good.
And we should help friends out.
Amen. Thank you. And this helped us out.
That's what it's all about.
Prophetess Verlinda White is with us as well.
Amen.
This is not her first time being on the show. She's been here maybe about 3 or 4 times, and actually she is the one that wanted to do this show, and then she mentioned your name. I said, oh yeah, you can bring brother on.
Right,
and she said, I want Pastor Stiggers to come. And I said, okay, well, I know his wife. And then so we made it happen. But Prophetess V, she has been here, and she is a wealth of knowledge in the mental health field. So we welcome her today too.
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Amen.
So as we get ready to dive into mental health and grief, what is grief? Let's find out first of all what is grief. If we're going to be talking about it, let's find out what it is.
Well, grief is our reaction to loss. And everybody grieves. No two persons grieve the same. So we have bereavement, which is our experience in the loss. Grief is our reaction to it. This is crying. This is having bouts with depression. This is not crying. This is anger. This is so many things.
Feeling guilty.
Yeah, feeling guilt, shame. Yeah. Blame. Oh, blame is a big one. And so everybody grieves. No two persons grieve the same. We all suffer from losses at some point in time in our lives. It is part of living to experience some type of loss.
Right.
And see, if I had an opportunity, I'd tell you the different types of losses. See, of course there's death.
Deal with that just a little bit.
There's death, but we suffer from losses of other things.
That's right.
A pet, losing that pet. An experience or an opportunity. We experienced so many losses when we went through COVID. Because here's the loss of what could be, what would be, the loss of not experiencing a wedding because we couldn't go there.
Or a church funeral because our funerals at the you have to do it at the burial.
That's right.
Or the last breath.
The last
just
breath.
being bedside.
Exactly.
Because we couldn't go to the hospital.
That's right.
The whole family couldn't gather as you used to gather.
Wow.
And everybody wasn't tech savvy,
Right.
to FaceTime and those kind of things. So it was very limited.
Right, exactly.
And all of the tools that we use to cope with loss and grief, all of a sudden, were taken away from us.
Yes, that's right.
The ability to travel and visit. The hugs and the handshakes. The reception or the repass. The repass. No repasses. You can't eat. And even the opportunity to go to one's church and have a wonderful homegoing celebration. All of a sudden is exactly as one lady told me. She said, Pastor, when my son died, Now, he has not been to the church. We're not coming to the church. We're going straight to the cemetery.
Wow.
All of a sudden, everybody goes straight to the cemetery.
Right. Wow.
The playing field is so equal
right.
and level,
Yeah.
and it was hurting. It was devastating.
Yeah,
to
it
take
was.
away
It was.
from
It
us.
was. It was sad to see.
And it was
the
so
change.
intense, you know, so
Exactly.
many at one time. It wasn't
Yes.
like, and it hit so many in one family or
Exactly.
one neighborhood. So it wasn't like 2 months or whatever.
I got you.
Sometimes it
Yes.
was hours.
Yes.
I know I
minutes.
felt like I was turning my head so
Yeah.
fast because
Right.
a death was happening so quick.
Yes.
You didn't have
Wow.
time to breathe or to get over, and it happened so before I can officially or in a way of comforting them. Here was
Right,
another.
right,
You know,
yeah.
so it
that was disappointing, and,
That was
and it was
devastating.
hard.
It was.
because we never encountered or experienced anything like that before.
Yes.
you know, and so that pandemic in itself was grievous.
Yes, it
you know
was.
what I'm saying, to see what happened to our nation. You know,
Yeah.
so Pastor, you talk a lot about. I see you got your book and you got your
Yeah, I
lecture
have to look
and
at some of the
everything.
things.
He's prolific, but the reason why I said that is because tell us a little bit about what you do, and then tell us. Then I want my beautiful sister to tell us a little bit about what she does.
Okay.
You know, and then this will help our audience know exactly who you all are, and that you know what you're talking about, and you're experiencing this.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I've been pastoring for the last 30 years, Mount Pisgah Baptist Church
That-
in Lafayette, Alabama. but
Better say that.
but
Yes.
I also have the good fortune not only to be a spiritual caregiver for the people in my church, but also in the arena of hospice. I work for Chattahoochee Hospice,
Yes.
which is the most wonderful hospice to work.
Well, that's a blessing.
Well,
That's
I've been
good
at
to
4,
hear.
so
Okay.
I really don't take that for granted. They are really good, and they are loving people.
Yes.
And you have to have certain. Well, God gives gifts to His
Qualities.
people,
Yes.
and so
Amen.
we have those gifts. So my experience about 20 years now as a hospice chaplain and bereavement coordinator.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Well, that's a big job,
is.
and for the whole region. Is that correct?
Yes. Now there are other
areas you
hospices.
cover?
What area? Yeah, what area?
Well,
you cover?
we cover Harris County, Hamilton. We cover Troup County. We cover Chambers County, Lee County, Randolph County, Roanoke. Yeah, we cover those areas.
That's the whole region.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's good. Well, kudos to you guys. Great. Then you're doing a great job.
well, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. All
He
right,
loves
sis.
what he does.
Yeah,
too.
you can tell. You can tell.
But of course, Sister Alzada and I have been knowing each other for a very long time. We were talking earlier about our childhood of growing up in our foundation building together.
Yes.
But I am now a retired educator, retired teacher after
Thank you,
36
Jesus.
years of teaching.
Wait a minute. You
36
better say
years.
that.
You better say that.
I better say that 36 years of teaching, retired,
Uh-huh.
retired from the state of Georgia, and then did a year in Alabama, and then the Lord said, "Okay, that's it.
enough.
Okay, that's enough."
Okay.
Anyway, and after that, of course, I've served as first lady, of course, at Mount Pisgah and Eastside
Yes,
Baptist Church in
double
LaGrange,
duty.
Georgia. And one of the things is, when we talk about dealing with grief and mental health, when I was working on my master's at Troy University, I was initially going to get my master's in counseling because we realized the fact that we need the spiritual counsel, but then sometimes there are instances where people need the practical
Come on now.
in counseling and of course we talk about grief and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going into that area,
Uh-huh.
and I never forget one of the first classes I held was counseling 101. The first thing that the professor said was, "You're going to be a counselor. The first thing you need to do is be counseled.
Oh,
Amen.
wow.
The first thing you
That's
need to do in order to be
good.
that, you need to
That's-
go to therapy yourself."
Wow, that's
So I know
good.
we'll kind of touch bases about that,
Okay.
in dealing with grief and mental health, that sometimes the spiritual is good. We
Yes.
need that, but sometimes we need to also deal with the practical
Yes,
side of
amen.
helping
I
us
totally
do
agree.
things.
Don't you agree with that?
I
That's good.
agree.
Thank you, sis.
And I'm so glad you shared that because myself, I've been in mental health for 41 years. And what I've seen, and being in ministry as well, what I've seen and what I've heard is we traditionally tell people you just need to pray about it. Okay.
Have mercy.
But if I got heart problems,
yes.
Right.
Yes.
you can't just tell me just pray about it.
Right.
You're gonna tell me go see a cardiologist.
That's
Right.
You know, follow up with your medical. You know, but if I'm grieving and I'm tearful and I'm sad and I'm, you know, depressed,
Anxiety.
yeah, I may
That's
not
key.
know how to pray.
That's right.
And that's all you're going to tell me, but you're not seeing that I'm disheveled, you know, I'm despondent, you know, I'm unkempt, you know, I have all these outward things
Lord Jesus.
that's going on,
Yeah.
and I don't have anyone to talk to help me get there. And then when people, you know, are not learned from in the pulpit oftentimes.
Yes.
So they don't see these things or know how to do it.
Exactly.
And so in our community, we typically steer people away from, you don't need to be going seeing anybody giving you those pills.
That's right. Yeah.
Have mercy.
But some of the
Have
ones in
mercy.
the pulpit hear me real good.
Talk
Some
to
of the
camera.
ones in the pulpit need them pills.
Need
Yes.
sales.
Yeah.
Yes.
They need counsel
They have
themselves.
not been delivered, have not dealt with stuff.
That's right.
And many of them
Themselves.
have not dealt with grief on their
Oh,
own.
Yeah.
come on.
Of
Their
their
own
own.
grief.
On their own.
Okay.
And as you said, it's not just death.
That's right.
But they've had losses,
Yes.
and they've masked those losses
Yes.
in the pulpit, and then they put that on the congregation.
It comes out in the preaching.
It does. Come on now.
It comes out in the preaching.
That's
It
right.
does.
Well, I
And
wanna-
sometimes
I wanna
attacks
put a-
all of that.
I
Yeah.
want to put a pin right there. Since we're all in ministry in some shape, form, or fashion, why is it so hard for us to get help when we need it? You know, I know we want to be the rock of Gibraltar.
I
And
know.
we want to
Yeah.
be that put on this strong persona
Yeah.
that we can handle anything, but we're human. So
Exactly.
why is it so hard for us as leaders that we lead people, we're out front, you know, why is it so hard for us to get help? If we're grieving, if we're broken, if we're hurting. I mean, why is it so hard? Not, you know, I want to know why
Yeah.
do you feel like we think that we don't need to get counseling or we shouldn't grieve or we don't get the help that we need.
One of the main identifiers of grief is denial. We deny
Yes.
because we're supposed to be strong. We're God's men, God's women. So
Chosen
you know,
by God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
there-
Got the
there's
Holy
nothing.
Ghost.
Qualified for the
We got to
job.
show everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
But when grief comes our way, we too grieve.
Yes.
What? Look at Jeremiah. He was a weeping prophet.
Yes, he was. Yes.
He grieved all the time.
That's right,
And let
yeah.
others know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at Peter. Peter grieved. I feel like it because he got angry at things. You know,
That's right.
you know, from the different instances. You know, having to deal with. So I feel like you know, he's one that needed therapy.
Well, so
That's
did
right.
David. So
That's
did
right.
David.
David.
Yes,
And
he
David
did.
said, I have to
Say.
encourage myself.
Yes.
You know, and oftentimes that's what's happening. People are self-medicating themselves, even spiritually.
That's
you know,
right.
Wow.
but it's not always.
That's awesome.
You know, it's not always effective.
That's right.
Because
Yes.
you know, one of the missing tools is knowledge.
That's right.
Now I call her my baby, but that's Apostle Alzada. But she and I went through a training last year to be faith-based specialists.
Yes.
And part of that was learning, you know, in ministry,
Yes.
how to identify mental health issues,
Yes.
you know, and how to refer people to resources that are in the community.
That's right.
And very few people are in attendance to those trainings because they think they know. But if they get in and hear it from a different
Yes.
perspective,
Yes.
then
We
you
did.
will hear these people in ministry talk about
Yes.
they went through therapy.
Yes.
They recognized they had
Yes.
concerns and issues and
Yes.
challenges that they needed to deal with so they could help others
Yes.
deal with what they were
Dealing
dealing
with,
with,
right.
whatever the loss.
Right.
Yes.
So it's important for everyone to get the help that they need, no matter their position,
No matter what
their
your
social
position is.
status. Doesn't matter. Everyone, because
Right.
everyone dies.
Yeah.
Everyone
That's right.
have a loss.
Has a loss.
And so,
Yes.
you know, we need to be able to deal with it whatever it takes. We need to do whatever it takes so that we can get the help that we need,
Yes.
no matter our status.
Yes.
Okay, I have this other question, and this question is specifically for me. And I brought this question up, and it's when it says, when it comes to death, does how a person die cause the grief process to be any different than any other death?
I think it
How
does.
a person dies. Go ahead.
Personally, I think it does. As we were talking earlier, when my father passed in 2003, I knew that he had heart condition. He had triple bypass surgery years earlier, metal aorta replaced. When it came down to it, and then he had a stroke. You know, I could see the process, and I knew, even though I still wasn't expecting him to pass when he did. When my mother passed away, mother was so private about her illnesses and things like that until it got to the point where we had to find out. And so then all kind of questions in your mind is saying, what if we had done this?
Yes.
What if I had done that? How did we miss that? Or why couldn't I have, once Mama found out she had COPD, that's what she passed away from.
Right.
She did at least survive at least a year after that. You know, but we said, what if we had just insisted that Mama got out and walked more?
That's right,
Because the pandemic caused her to stay in.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
and
being
fear on
inside,
top of
and
that.
that fear on top of that. You know, so you think about a whole lot of things. What could I do? Reverend knows, every once in a while I'm sitting there and I'm looking at something, and you know, I'll pop up something out of the blue. Well, what if I had done this? It still happens.
Yes. Oh, wow.
It still happens.
So the difference is that Daddy went through a process.
A
with his
process that we went
sickness
along with him. That's
but
right.
with Mom.
And even though Mama, we knew that she had a year, still we didn't know where it was, when it would happen. You see what I'm saying?
So it can be a different grieving process.
Right. Different grieving
Because
process.
of how they pass.
Exactly.
Right.
Because, you know, now with COPD, many people may survive longer if you do certain things. But if you can't get your loved one to do those certain things, all that is in your mind. What if we had insisted more? What if we had, you know?
That's good. That's good. That's
I
good.
like
Anybody else?
to say a little something about that. Watching, well, my dad had COPD and he had some other issues as well, and I lived as a teenager and an adult, you know, with him getting sicker and sicker. And with my mom, the last 3 years of her life is like onset dementia and Alzheimer's, you know, and so the grieving started early. It started before her last breath, because I start seeing the mom I knew become more like a daughter to me.
Wow.
And so I really thought I was prepared for the last breath, but it hit me. I don't have anybody to care for anymore.
I see.
You know, and I had all these questions of, you know, did I do enough?
Yes.
You know, did I do enough? Did I make her comfortable enough? You know, and did I protect her enough as she was changing and evolving to needing me more? And so it was a big difference, and it has been you know, a learning process, and I'm still having, and this month just happens to be her birth month. And so you know, it a lot of memories. But I wouldn't trade being able to care for her during those last 3 years for nothing.
Right, exactly.
Well, let me say something about guilt, shame, blame, and anger.
Okay.
You talked about, is it different for the person like my sister Jacoby, who was you all a drunk driver hit her. Daddy, it was an aneurysm, but Daddy's gone in 3 days. Mama, we had a lot of time to spend with Mama. I was not able to do my dad's funeral. I wanted to because he asked me to, and it hurt me that I couldn't. Mama, I was ready. I was ready.
So what was the difference, Pastor?
Well, the difference is Dad's and Jacoby's just so quick. It happened so suddenly. Nobody's ready. That's a part of the grief, the stages. Shock. Denial.
That's good.
Numbness. I don't want to believe this. But there are the different kinds of grief. And so when you step back and look at the different kinds of grief that we suffer, such as complicated grief.
Yes.
Complicated grief comes into effect when we already going through what we're going through, and here comes the death.
Oh my
What'd you
goodness,
say?
that's good.
Already
I never heard
a
about that
drunk,
one.
already struggling with drugs, already jobless, already divorced, and somebody died.
And no insurance.
Yeah, that's
People fail to
talk
do the
about
right things or the things that are appropriate, and all of these things happen, and now you have to deal with death.
Oh my goodness, that's heavy.
And then there's anticipatory grief, that you know that the person that you love is leaving this world.
Yes.
So we start to grieve even when people lose their job, when they go on disability. We start to grieve when people are diagnosed. And then there's stages, the person who is diagnosed, when they start to have a smaller world, that their world is contained in this house,
Yes.
and then to a
that's
room,
good.
Yes.
and then to a bed.
Yes.
And all of those are part of the grieving process. When they can feed themselves is one thing that we grieve, and we just have to cook for them. But what about when we have to feed them?
Oh my goodness. Woo,
And then,
goodness, I didn't
see,
realize
it's so
that.
much,
Yes.
it's so
That's
much to
heavy.
it that
That's
people
heavy.
do not address.
Yes.
So, disenfranchised grief.
Yeah.
Wow.
What kind of grief do they have? You remember when
never even
AIDS?
heard of that
You remember when AIDS hit?
Yes.
And people would sometimes shy away from celebrating the life because of how they died.
Come on now.
Oh wow.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they going to hell.
Joe said it.
We don't have such knowledge, and it's just simply we don't know.
Right.
We have no heaven to place people in.
That's
We
right.
have no hell to send folk to. But we have guessulated when that is up to God. At least in our expertise,
Right.
that is up to God.
It is. It is up
but,
to God.
But the disenfranchisement speaks to we don't grieve the same. We don't let that person grieve properly
Yes.
because of the issue of how they died.
Yes. Yes. Now that's true.
So
that's good.
That's
good.
a big thing.
And I like how you talked about that because my mom died in 2015, and she was just snatched away from. She was murdered,
oh wow.
and we just woke up one morning, and she was gone. And and it was a shock. It was devastating.
Yeah.
And then how she died.
Yeah.
She was stabbed 52 times. It
Oh, my
wasn't just
gosh.
like, she just died in her sleep, but she was murdered. Just brutally murdered. And so to me, that was the hardest thing about that, to think about how my mom lived her last minutes, her last, fighting for her life. Because it was just devastating.
Yes.
Who would want to viciously kill someone
Yes.
and stab them 52 times?
My God.
So that was hard. And sometimes even now, I think about it and I tear up, and I still have moments,
Sure.
But with Dad,
It's called closure.
yes, okay, it's
How
called
do
closure.
I find closure
Yes, with that.
in this? And then some people never find the murderer. It's just left open.
Yes.
It's an open door. When people die or drown and they never find the body,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
just the
devastating.
lack of closure
Yes.
just hurts us and hurts us. And it's a part of our grief.
Yes, I believe that because so with Mom, no, we never, the situation with that. But then back when I was 15 or 16, my uncle died, and he was found in the well. And nobody ever found out what happened to him. And I was young, and being 15, that was the first time that our family, our age group, had experienced death. And how he died was bad too. But at the day of the funeral, my aunt, we were screaming and hollering. We was young teenagers.
Yeah.
And Uncle Macon was our favorite uncle. And then our aunt just told us, she just told us, shut up, get on down the hill, be quiet, and everything. And we were so angry with her for treating us. She didn't tell us that. She grabbed us by the arm and shoved us down the hill. And we were so angry with her about how she treated us during that grief process.
Yeah.
And so when we got old, we told her about it. You know, how she treated us.
That
and
was
that
good.
hurt. We did. We told her we had to be grown. You know, before
Yeah,
we
you had
said
to get
something,
grown.
because we might have got slapped in the
clothes
lip.
on that.
Exactly. But we told her that wasn't the way to treat us.
Yeah.
You should have gathered us together and talk to us and help us to understand how to deal with this versus, telling us off and telling us to shut up and get down the hill.
Yeah.
So that scarred us even the more.
But see, she may have been dealing with her grief,
It's
Right.
and
a
she didn't
different
want
way.
to keep hearing because she's trying to be
strong. Yep.
for everybody else.
That's right.
for the
No, you're
younger.
right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's what was happening
And you're
with
not
her.
going to believe this, sis, but that's exactly what she said.
Wow.
And believe it or not, months later, after everything was over, she had a breakdown.
My.
Trying to be strong for my
And
grandmother,
that's
trying to be
what
strong
we
for
have to
others.
remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Guilt, shame, blame, and anger. Guilt, shame, blame, and anger.
Anger, wow,
It's
that's good.
y'all's fault. Here is a sibling that's on the other side of the world, and here's a sibling at home with mama, taking care of
Come
mama,
on now.
doing the best that they can, and then the sibling comes in from the other side.
Chicago.
And did you do this? Did you do that? And you didn't do this. And you didn't do that. And then mama died. Oh, it's your fault.
Oh, my goodness.
You didn't take care. Can you
better say
imagine?
that?
Yeah.
I can imagine. I lived it. I remember when my dad passed in '94, and a family member. I was in his old room by myself, and now I was a daddy's girl, so now that thing hit me real hard, and I cried. I was crying. Oh my, I was crying. But I wasn't bothering anybody.
Okay.
So this family member comes in the room, and she said, "You need to stop all that crying."
Wow.
I said, I understand that my dad is gone. My dad was saved, and he had the Holy Ghost. I was at peace about that, but I missed my dad. Okay,
Yes.
so she
Yes.
tells me, I said, well, I'm glad my dad doesn't have to suffer anymore. Why would you say something like that? Why? I said, because I understand. You don't understand. You just need to stop that. Okay,
Wow.
but.
Wow.
That angered me.
Yes.
But
yes.
it hurt me more than it angered me.
Yes. Yes.
But I never got a chance to settle that with her.
Okay.
Before she passed away. But I
We
forgive her.
settled,
I'm good.
Yeah.
But her understanding and mine, was totally different about how I felt about my dad.
Sure,
And
sure.
I think most of hers was guilt because there were times when she never came to see him.
Wow. Wow.
And
Yeah.
but that was her issue. It wasn't mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have
So
imposed
that's
that
all
upon
that
you.
guilt and shame and all that stuff come up. Yeah.
Well, let me ask this question. What are some of the stages of grief? Some of the stages that we go through when it comes to grief?
I think that's some of the
Yeah.
things he just named.
First, the numbness when you first find out, and then the denial. Let me just make it this night. Let me wake up in the
Right,
morning.
right.
Everything will be all
okay.
right. It's not real. The
This is
denial.
not happening.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but then it comes a point where you're bargaining, with God,
Yes,
with
yes.
others, and you're thinking about yourself. What did I do?
Yes.
Guilt, shame, blame. You blame yourself. You blame others, and then the anger part.
Yes.
Especially if somebody from over here blames you, then you're going to get angry. It can create years and years of animosity.
Yes, in the family.
Yeah,
That's
and so
seen that.
all of these things are true, and they are part of the grief process.
Right.
But the healing, I don't really want to say. Here's what I want to say.
Okay.
We learn to live with our grief.
Yes, we do. We find a way, don't we?
We find a way
find
to,
a way. Don't
to
we find a
live.
way?
Yes, we do.
And in a way, I don't
That's good.
ever want to be at the point where I forget or get totally healed from my sister's death.
That's right.
My daddy's death.
Right.
My mother's death. Her mother's death.
Yes.
I don't
yes.
ever want to be fully heal where I don't remember. It doesn't affect it will affect me for the rest of my life. But I learned how to deal with it.
Yes.
I learned how to live with it.
Yes.
And I learned how to celebrate
That's right.
that life
And the memories that you have.
that affected me, that was a part of my life.
That's
We
good.
learned how to
That's
celebrate it.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And
right.
I'm glad you said that because
me too.
we don't ever want people to think, okay, you had your anger moment, you had your, you had your shame moment, you had that, because on any given day or situation can come up and it's just fresh.
Yes, you're right.
And I've had those fresh tears that
Yes.
just, that just shower down.
Yes.
You better
And,
say that, because
but
I had the same.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you think about something or
A song,
or
see
something they
something
like.
that
I go
does
to
it.
Longhorn. That was my mom and I. That was our spot, and she knew I was going to let her have that sweet potato. And there are times when I'm eating the sweet potato, I just think about my mom, and I can hear her say to me, "Let me have a little piece of that," because I wouldn't let her have certain things, but I let her have a little piece.
Yes,
And
yes.
but and all the memories are not always the good ones.
That's true.
But
Yes.
I've learned to live with
To
it.
live
And,
with
it.
what I don't do
Right.
is I don't go to the cemetery talking to mama.
Okay.
Falling on the grave and everything.
Yeah, and every time I got a decision to make, I don't be running to the cemetery like, well, mama, what you think I need to do?
That's
you
right.
know, because again, when we know better and we've been taught, the dead knows nothing.
That's
You
right.
know, and
That's
so
right.
they can't speak to us, and
That's
we don't need
right.
to be talking about, well, mama, what I need to do. That's not gonna happen. But too many times it's not taught.
That sounds
Amen.
like self-therapy, because most of the time a therapist will tell you when you come in, all I'm going to do is help you arrive at the answer to your problem.
That's right. Yes.
So maybe that person's going there, they're asking, knowing they're not going to literally hear anything from them, but then they arrive at the answer of what they need to do.
Right.
You said something
exactly.
that's
That's
very
good.
powerful. Yeah, no, they don't speak to us. But in essence, their spirit is still with us.
Yes, yes.
My sisters were hearing me preach,
Wow.
and they told me after the sermon that we were looking at each other. When you said a certain thing, when you had a certain reaction, when you inflected your voice, they looked at each other and said, "That's Daddy right there. That's Daddy right there." And so we have those moments that we can all rejoice over.
Yes.
That he is still a very vibrant part of our lives.
That's
We
right.
are who we
That's
are.
true.
Yes,
That's right.
Because of
Because of
That,
them.
exactly. And then a
Exactly.
part of them is in us.
That's
Yes,
it.
it is.
That's it.
And
Yes.
so they're still,
We look
hey,
like them. Don't start acting like
That's
them. too.
right. Yes. Sound like
Oh,
them.
you just like your mama.
Yes.
Look, Jesse Burr. And
I love it.
you
That's
sing
good.
like your mama? Well, nobody would ever sing like my mom.
Yes.
But I love those songs that she sung, and she was in the gala.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's my
Yes,
mom.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, Miss Jess. Oh, we love her. Jesus, oh, what a wonderful child.
That's it. That's her song.
That was her song.
And
Yes.
sometimes when I'm singing or preaching and I do my hand like that, it's like that's just like
It's just like
That's right. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is,
Like
this is
Miss
so
Jess.
good.
That's a beautiful
This is
woman.
so good.
Beautiful woman.
So let me ask you something. So is there a time limit on the grieving process? Is it a time limit? Should you grieve a year? Should you grieve? So in a sense, we just kind of answer that because it's going to always be something.
Well, let me
know.
tell everybody.
Okay.
There
Tell 'em.
is no time limit
On grief.
on grief.
Thank you.
It
Pastor.
depends on who you are and where you are
Yes.
in the grieving process.
Very good.
And it's all right.
Yeah, it
And
is
so
okay.
no one can tell anyone else how to grieve because we're as
Right.
different as night and day.
Yes, we are. That's
Yeah.
good.
I think when you look
That's
at when you
good.
look at the fact, sometimes people think about it. Okay, how long will I take time off to grieve?
Right.
They're coinciding that with work. If they work, am I ready to go back to work yet?
Right.
Or am I ready to, like in instance with us, my sister Debbie was living with my mom that last year, taking care of her. And then immediately after that, I mean, Debbie just started working on the houses. Now, some of us might, like my oldest sister might say, Deb, you gonna start doing all that now?
Now?
You haven't given it time yet.
Right, okay.
But to Debbie, that was her therapy and her
Yes.
way of getting through
Yes,
this.
yes,
right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so
Right, that's
now when we
good.
go over, I say, oh, this is so beautiful. Mom would have loved this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People, so time, some
no
people
limit.
may go back to trying to do whatever, however amount of time they think they
That's
need.
right.
But it does not mean that they totally have forgotten.
That's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Or have
Right.
totally gotten
That's
over.
good.
Well,
That's
let
good.
me give
That's good.
let me give a name to that.
Okay.
It's called the normal grieving process, and when I'm taking care of the bereaved,
Right.
I will most often write how a person is going through the normal grieving process, which is they may cry, they may have outbursts, they may see something, they may remember something, and you know, people may remind them. Now, what is not normal, what is not normal is, okay, since mama died, this person is now addicted to drugs.
Yes.
That is not normal.
Thank you.
That's the
You,
next
you
show.
know,
Better
you
say that.
need to
Good.
work.
That's
You
good.
have a
Better
house
say that.
payment. You have children.
Yes,
You have a car
You need
payment.
to
You
pay.
have a
Have a what?
You better.
You better say that.
yeah. You better say that.
better say that.
Now that is not no. You
That's
can't
good.
live in the house anymore.
Wow.
You know all of those things. That is
unhealthy.
not normal. So you know, I would put this is what that person. I don't call it abnormal, but this is where that person is, and they are having trouble with this. This which is an adult daily living
Yes.
activity.
Very good.
You
Very good.
brush your
This is
hair.
good.
Brush your hair. Brush your
Brush
Put
your
on,
teeth.
put on you some clothes.
Yeah.
Clean
And
your
Yeah,
bath.
go,
That's
go
right.
to work.
Yeah.
You're right.
Go to work.
Yeah.
You-
Or stop it.
You're right.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
stop
emotional
eating.
eating.
Amen.
Stop eating. Yeah, deal like that. That's
Amen.
good.
Both
That's
ways.
good.
So
That's
to
good.
take
I love
care
it.
of oneself
Oh, that's
Self-care.
good.
is going through the normal grieving process or having some help if you cannot take care of yourself.
Very
but
good.
when it gets
Very good.
when it gets to the limit of people really causing themselves harm and it's detriment to the people that love them around them, then that is something else.
Very good. Very good.
And real quick, like you were saying about how much time,
Yes.
Chattanooga Hospital, I'm pretty sure many others, they have, they give to the families
Yes.
types of readings where maybe you
Information.
might be okay, but they give them information,
Right.
like on the getting through the first weeks after
That's
the
good.
funeral.
Hold that up so they can see that. You know,
Okay,
the camera.
yeah,
just,
getting through the first weeks after the funeral.
Very
Those are
good.
things that give.
You need
and
those?
Then,
I have them.
exactly,
I like
and
that.
on the first anniversary of your loss, because sometimes
awesome.
people don't know. Okay, what do we do?
Yeah.
You know, things like that. I know with the family, we remember the birthdays or we remember the anniversary. We may go to the cemetery or
Sure,
we're gonna
get
have
some
a dinner.
flowers or
Things like that, and it just gives suggestions
That's
to help
very
people. Because
good.
some
Awesome.
people may not have that type of background
Yes,
as
yes.
you or we may have.
That's
you may
right,
do,
right.
and they need help.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and yeah, that's
awesome.
real good, sis. Because the last question I was going to ask is, where can people get help?
That's,
You know, where
Well,
can people get
there we
help?
go.
So
Okay,
she's
that's
already
how we
taking
flow.
care of that.
This
love
is
it, yeah.
this is where you get help.
Help,
But
exactly.
we are not the only ones.
Yeah,
That's
come on,
right.
Pastor.
We're
You
not.
you need a support group.
Yes.
You need people that love you. You need somebody in your life that's not scared of you.
That's right. Oh,
That's right. And tell you what you need.
Exactly.
That's it. You better say that.
Exactly.
I can tell you
That
the
will
truth.
tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
Bring you back.
Right.
Very
Exactly.
good.
Right.
That's good
And
stuff.
you need those people. You need co-workers. You need church members. You need family members. You need some friends. And when it gets to that point, you need therapy.
Yes,
You
counseling.
need to talk to people. There are support groups all around. Most hospices are required to have a support group.
Oh, that's good.
And that meets on a regular basis. So go to your local hospice and they'll be able to direct you to the time and place of their support group. And then you can also get individual counseling.
Very
You know,
good. Don't have to be
Yeah,
ashamed
yeah.
to get
Li-
counseling.
listen,
right.
if
Don't
you
be
if you
ashamed.
need some counseling, there are professionals. Get somebody that looks like you.
Yeah.
That's right.
That knows your experience. I'm just, can I say that?
Yeah, go ahead and
no,
say
no.
that. Go ahead and say
Say it
that.
again.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pastor.
And so get you some help if you need that help. Yes,
Reach out.
there are spiritual leaders that can give you help in this area.
Right.
But be honest with yourself. If it's not helping, tell them to refer you.
Exactly. Come on.
Exactly.
Every
Very good.
pastor, every good pastor I
Yes.
know has a book in their credenza
Right.
that just has referral numbers
That's
in it.
Right, right. That's very good. Very good. That's good.
I will say this as a former educator.
Uh-huh.
I had to deal with students who suffered grief.
Yes.
Right. Yes, you did. Yes, you
Parent
did.
died
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah, see,
And by being married to a hospice chaplain, as well as going through the process of studying about counseling, I would suggest to the parent, I said, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I can see your child dealing with this.
That's right, yeah.
And so I would maybe make a suggestion to them. And one of the things I know, and I know our time is almost up, Camp Good Grief.
Okay.
Matter of fact, even though Reverend was attending as a chaplain, but he said he was blessed and healed through it, dealing with the loss of his baby sister.
Yeah, right.
Children grieve differently from
Yes,
adults.
they do. And
Yes,
they don't
they
even
do.
know how to grieve, actually.
And
Exactly.
the
You know.
adults can't help them.
And we
That's
can't
right.
help them, exactly. And
I want to say this
Okay.
real quick.
yeah.
We also discovered that there is a lack of knowledge,
Yes.
but we also discovered that there is a resistance
Yeah.
to learn.
To learn.
You know, yes, the Holy Scripture, the Bible, gives us answers to everything.
Yes.
Amen.
You
Yes.
learn what 1 + 1 was. You didn't learn that in the Bible, not necessarily.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Did it.
So you got that high school, diploma, college degree, and all of
Exactly.
that. That's good,
Yes.
but you need some more stuff.
Yes.
You
Amen.
need to learn these stages. You need to learn when to refer people out.
people,
You
yes.
know, and whoever is a member of your church, these are not your people.
That's
These
right.
still are
God's
God's
people.
people.
Amen. Amen.
And when you are not equipped to serve them at
Fully.
the level that they need to have service,
Get help.
you need to get help for
Amen.
this.
Right.
Get some
And you
help.
need to get help for
That's true.
yourself.
That's true.
So one of the things that we are interested in doing, and certainly hope that you will consider
Being a part
being
of it.
part of that.
Yes.
Because I throw your name around quite a bit.
All right.
He's
I'm
popular.
But to help,
Sure.
we wanted a day of extending training to
Sure.
to people in ministry, in different areas,
Sure.
how they need to help their congregation.
Amen.
Sure.
Okay,
That's right.
and so that may not be a one-day thing. It may be several,
Okay. Okay.
training opportunities for them. We're not responsible for people attending, so to speak, but we are responsible for making it available.
Making it
Exactly.
available.
And it's their
Definitely.
responsibility, to grasp that.
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
I used to teach that. It's called clinical pastoral education.
Thank you, sir.
What a word.
Clinical pastoral
Now we know.
education. Because sometimes,
CPE, for
yeah,
sure.
Okay.
sometimes we don't know how we affect people
Yes.
when we minister to them.
Yes.
So we need that
Yeah,
feedback.
that's good.
How effective are we in ministry?
Come on.
And that's what clinical pastoral education
good.
teaches us. Before you go into someone's sick room or dying room, you need to know
What to
how
say and
you
how to say
what to say, how to say, how you come off on people.
How you
Yeah.
look at
Oh,
them.
Yeah.
Wow. And how do you
And what they may
respond?
think.
Yes.
Because
good.
I have
That's
seen
good.
I have seen some people put some preachers out of their
Out their
their
house.
sick room,
And
out of
probably
their
needed
home,
to. They
out of
probably
their
needed to.
lives.
Yeah.
And I stood by and I said, Amen.
Support.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We can't tell it all. So to me, something dropped in my spirit. And guess what? Maybe we need to do part two. Because these people are a wealth of knowledge and experience. Well, Pastor has already summed it up and where we can get help. Lady Stiggers has already told us where we could go. Mama V has already told us where we could go. So listen, tune in to the You Better Say That Facebook page, my YouTube page, Alzada Florence. And until next time, God bless you, and you better say that. Give it up for my host.
You better say that. The best talk show, you better say that.